Hi, everyone, and welcome to this month's talk, which also happens to be the last event of the year. So, ready for that. We're really glad you all could join us, especially considering the holiday season. And here to close off this amazing year, we have Ninaad Kothawade talking about artificial intelligence. A little bit about Ninaad. He's an independent artist and designer who's constantly merging AI and creativity, resulting in some really stunning visuals, which you'll get to see throughout this call. With over 8 years of experience, his pool of clients include impressive names like Netflix, Spotify, Coca-Cola, and he's had his work displayed globally in places like Art Dubai, Times Square, New York, and ArtScience Museum in Singapore. So in this talk, he'll be talking about the his journey with AI, following which he'll be walking you through this process of um, working with AI and how he embraces the unpredictable nature of AI and uses that to enhance his work. And yeah, so before we start, just a little bit about Motion Sickness India and how we came to be. We started the community in 2022, and now we're a growing number of motion designers from India with a goal to connect and bring to spotlight the many talented individuals across this country. So we currently exist on Instagram where we repost exceptional motion design work. We are on LinkedIn and we also upload recordings of the session on YouTube. And also last month, we were able to host our first in-person design meetup, which was really great. And we hope to do more of that in the future. Links to Nina's work and links to join Motion Sickness all will be provided in the chat during the for the duration of the call, so you can just use that and check out Nina's work and also like join Motion Sickness. And the recording of the talk will be uploaded on YouTube, and we'll be sharing links to that later in this week, probably. So, in case you missed a part or you want to share it with someone, you can always go to YouTube and check it out. So, over to Ninad now.
Hi, give me like 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, hello. Can you hear me well, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now you can see me as well, I think.
Yes, all good.
Okay. Just gonna share my screen so we can all see the presentation. Up. I'm gonna also zoom into my face. Yes. Hmm. Is my screen up? I just want to know if it is.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
visible.
All right. Yeah. If like I get cut off or if something goes wrong, let me know because I can't see anything but my own presentation now.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll let you.
All right.
We'll let you know if there's an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So hello. Firstly, like happy to be here. Thank you for having me. We've been trying to make this happen for some time. We've canceled a few dates before, and I'm glad that somehow we are able to do this now. And yeah, happy to do this talk. So I am, of course, Ninaad. And so, like, before anything like this slide, I love this slide because I don't really get to use PowerPoint in my life. Because even when we like do client presentations, we usually do like Google Slides or whatever. And the only time I use PowerPoint is when I'm like doing talks because I put like a lot of videos in, and PowerPoint is the only one which like does a great job at like holding it together. And when I was playing around, I found out that there are like these 3D inbuilt animations in PowerPoint and a lot of random ones at that. So I just put like all of them here. And yeah, like it really makes me question that like what Microsoft was thinking when they were like, it would be great to have like a carnivorous plant in 3D that's animated because, you know, corporates might need it someday. So just in case. But yeah, and they're really cool. Like if you have Pokemon, you should check them out. There's dinosaurs and whatnot. But okay, so this talk is I'll just go like, okay, that's me, Ninaad Kothawade. I like to refer to myself as an artist and a designer now. And when even like Nikhil told me that they run this community of motion designers, I was like, okay, I guess I kind of fit into that, though I'm not really sure. But people get really uncomfortable if you like say artist and designer. They'll always be like, oh, what kind of artist do you like paint? What kind of designer? So it usually goes like this, like huge, wall of text, which is, yeah, I'm some sort of a multidisciplinary designer person and work with a lot of art and technology. And yeah, today we are going to talk about like AI, but we'll do that a little bit later. I want to give a little bit more context about myself because I feel like it's important in the way that I approach things as well. And also, part of the reason why I do these talks is to feed like the little narcissistic tendencies that I have of letting everyone know about me. But yeah, so that is my Instagram. If you haven't seen it already, yeah, you should. It's a little chaotic mess. There's a lot of things going on, and like if you scroll really way down, you'll see the kind of like crap I used to make, and compared to now, like I'm still making crap, but I feel like it's with different tools, and we'll kind of go through all of that now. But yeah, where it all kind of started is that I have always had a love for technology ever since I was like a little child. That GIF is literally me. I was given a computer when I was quite young, and I had these uncles who used to like collect these like computer magazines. I would get them home. These CDs has like had like random softwares on them, and I would install everything. Like I've installed like accounting softwares, like very early versions of like Photoshop trials, whatnot, and I would just play around with them, click random buttons, see what I can do. Yeah, there wasn't much you could do with the accounting ones, but like there were like a lot of creative ones which were fun to play around with. And when people ask me where I trace back, like, things that I do, I feel like this is where it kind of goes. Because apart from like all of this, the way I got into design was very like it wasn't like when I was a child, I was like, I'm going to be a designer when I grow up. Or when I was in like 10th grade, I was like, I'm going to study for design. None of that. I literally uh, like got into design school. I literally like started applying to design schools like 3 months before I was in one. That's when I was like, okay, maybe this sounds like a fun idea. And it wasn't fun because I did go to college and I realized that like being a good design student, you had to be good at drawing, which I wasn't. I still am not. I'm really bad at it. And you have to be good at seeing colors, and I'm colorblind. So it kind of doesn't work out. And foundation year was horrible for me because they did color theory and they made us draw a lot. And I was like questioning everything about being in a design school, about like wanting to pursue this. I don't know what I was thinking. My impulses have led me to this place where nothing makes sense anymore. uh, and yeah, I had to like I do random stuff like when I work with colors I have to google them, and kind of I pick colors sometimes when I need like specific shades, because that's the only way. Like because there's been times when like I've sent something to the client thinking it's blue and then it's turned out to be purple, and you get some fascinating results sometimes, and it's always fun to do that. And like why I'm talking about all of this is because like I've figured out these processes for myself through like hook and crook, through just like bringing broken things together to make it work for me. It was never like very straightforward, but I absolutely love this poster because the designer put in so much effort in that typography, like putting all those like overlays in the back and the B and the E, and they put like zero effort in compositing. They didn't even bother cutting her hair out. It's amazing. I really like that. Yeah. But it's been fine. My work has reached places that I never thought it would. I worked for brands that I really enjoyed working with. And, it's turned out okay. Like I somehow figured it out. Uh, yeah. And I love this list because it reminds me that there are people out there that like who are seeing my work and I should keep doing what I'm doing, etc. And also, a friend of mine told me they resemble the lyrics to Dal De Disco, which is fun. And yeah, the last one was in Times Square in New York. Absolutely surreal. Just putting it here because I still haven't gotten over it. It's been months, and yay for me. But I did start like off doing a lot of graphic design before I did any of the motion stuff. uh, in college I was a visual design student throughout. The second I got to like working with computers and no more drawing, I got like slightly better at it, and did a lot of branding projects. And at the end of college I was kind of feeling saturated because I was like, is this what I'm going to do all my life? I'm going to make logos and brand books and packaging and whatnot. And I got a job which meant doing packaging design and branding. And I've been really restless since the start. Like if I pick up something, I kind of get bored with it. I need to do something else. And so I was like, okay, I will start. You get After Effects free with this Creative Cloud thing. Maybe I'll start doing something like that because it's like the stuff that I see on Instagram and it all moves. So maybe that'll be fun. And I would just like again click random buttons, try to make things happen, look up tutorials, and just play around in After Effects making absolutely random things, no meaning whatsoever. I would put some music, I would post it on Instagram, and I would do this almost every day. And it was my way of like play, because everything I was doing at work and in graphic design was so monotonous in that way that like I was like, I just need to do random things because that gives me joy sometimes. And I continued playing around. I made stuff. This is completely on After Effects, nothing else used. Like I would download random plugins. I would again, the process was click random buttons, move random sliders, see what happens. If it's fun, it's fun. 9 out of 10 times it crashes your laptop. Great learning, move on. But yeah, and then I remember like I was putting these up, and one of my friend who's an illustrator, Aditya Damle, he reached out and he was like, hey, this musician has reached out to me and he wants like an album art done, but he also wants a visualizer. And I know you've been doing like motion stuff, do you want to do this with me? And I was like, sure, I absolutely know how to do that. And I took this job up. And yeah, I shouldn't be saying this, but I kind of learned how to do this on the job because I had no idea before that. I was making a lot of random things, but like doing stuff with intent and purpose. The first time I was like, okay, we'll figure this out. So as soon as I got it, I would like Google things every day of like how to move one thing from the other, how to change colors. And we ended up doing this like extremely fun. It was a learning exercise for me. I had a lot of fun and it turned out pretty crazy as well. But as things go with me, I got bored with that, wanted to do something else, picked up 3D because I was like, okay, this seems like the new thing that excites me, been seeing this on Instagram again. So I was like, okay, got on to CD, started learning Cinema 4D. Every day I would come back from work and put like an hour in, like just watching tutorials, learning how to do it. Because if you've ever had like opened a 3D software, that shit is intimidating as fuck. Like there's like 500 buttons on there and you have no idea what any of them do. They look nothing like your Adobe softwares that you kind of are used to. And so I was like, it can't be that bad, right? Because I was like, even on like Photoshop, I don't really use all the buttons that are there. I only use like four of them. So I'm pretty sure like 3D should be fine. And yeah, I just took that approach to it and started making random stuff in 3D, a lot of which I haven't put except this project. Because this was really like me challenging myself that, okay, I'm going to do like a 3D illustration every day, make these letters, kind of hold myself accountable. The next year I did more of that. Once I knew a little bit of 3D, I was like, okay, I'm going to make it more consistent, a little more intense, get into it a little more, and made a lot of other things as well. It was during the pandemic that I started making more art stuff with 3D and with other tools. And again, 36 Days of Type came by, and I was like, okay, how about I animate each one of them? And I would not recommend this to anyone, like doing a 3D animation every day, because it nearly blew up my laptop and my house. That time I didn't even have a PC, so I would like sit not knowing how much time it's going to take to render, but like holding myself accountable that yes, I will post one every day. and some of them are animated, some of them are not, because that's just what like time and like I have a life, so I couldn't do that. I'm really happy with this because I was like, I'm going to do something random every day again. Each letter will have a different approach, make them move if I can, but just have fun with it. And I did have a lot of fun. This turned out good. This is, as you can see, in 2021. Um, and, it's all going fine until like now we reach the AI part of it. Wow, I put aside AI. Like the thing is that like we started hearing like a little things about like AI coming into like image generation, this and that. And I was like, okay, again, like during this talk, I was like, what are my first interactions with like the word AI, right? It's through like fun things like this, like how a person in Japan married a hologram, and then their relationship went bad, and then they couldn't be together. And then like more serious and like weird stuff about AI just being horrible, horrible, horrible to people, being bigoted, like just like yeah, being a reflection of our absolute terrible collective selves. And naturally, like my reaction was always like whenever I would see AI, I was like, okay, something's gonna go wrong. Fuck AI, right? It's like, yeah, we don't care about it. And yeah, this slide has been slightly intimidating, so I have a nicer version of it. But it's always been like that I was like, okay, AI is bad, AI is going to take over our jobs, AI has been messing around with people. You hear about like you know automated systems replacing people all the time and this and that, until I was like, an avocado changed my mind because I saw this article back again in 2021, and I was like, oh, that is fascinating. Especially they're like, okay, we have this thing where you put a bunch of words and they make an image for you. I was like, oh, I cannot draw, so this sounds great. I can English, so I just have to put a bunch of words and I'll make anything. And of course, these are like absolutely horrible early examples of what the technology could do. But like, if you think about it, this was only like 4 years back, and yeah, the stuff that it can do now is crazy, right? Like, but anyway, and then like Mid Journey became a thing. Everybody got access to it, and we saw such random things on Instagram. My Instagram feed was filled with people doing the most like absurd shit with AI. Like, why are we making Elon Musk and Obama dance at Barat's? Why are we doing whatever the hell there is on the right side of the screen? Um, yeah, it was like a bunch of random things and like very over sexualized imagery. And I couldn't make sense of any of it. But the technology fascinated me, right? I was like, this is a lot. This feels like people were sitting on like a lot of these like 100,000 different ideas, and suddenly they have a tool that can do a pretty good job at like making this. I do want to try it, but I was so overwhelmed. And so I was like, how about like I really dive deep into it and figure out a process for myself which makes sense to me, where I'm not just putting a bunch of random words and getting an image, posting it. Because I don't know, like, I don't think I have anything unique to add there. And this kind of capturing this feeling of this like over saturation of AI imagery, of the content we were consuming, of the content that we were making as well. Because anyway, like the internet has like so many million things that are put on it every day. And I feel like with AI, imagery, art became a thing that was so easy to make that we flooded the internet with that as well the second we could. And so I made this artwork of mine called Enhance, which kind of is about all of these things. It's about how uh, we see so many different things every day, and it's so hard to find meaning and to find like things that like I actually associate with, because there are so many different worlds at our access. And yes, I did use AI to do this because I was like, there is no better way to show this like overwhelming aspect of it. And so I generated like 1,800 images and made a video out of it. So it's a sequence of 1800 images in a 2-minute video, kind of goes like all over, kind of ends up in this like abstract space. And it was cool. But I was like, this doesn't feel personal yet. Like, this is obviously a lot of random things, and I want to use this technology. It fascinates me. I love what it can do, but I want to use this to make something more like personal, make something that feels truly mine and not something in the sea of imagery out there. And so I was like, I'm going to do a self portrait because, hey, every artist has to do one at some point and feed your little narcissism. So I was like, okay, I'm going to train AI models with my likeness, with my face, because honestly, nobody else would do that, right? Like, nobody should. Thankfully, nobody has. But I was like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to see how it goes. And so I did. And I started generating images of myself in various different forms just to understand how AI looks at me, what it does, right? And it was quite disorienting because it sort of made me feel less like a person in a lot of ways, because I must have generated like 500,000, I don't even know, 2,000 images. Oh no, way more than 2,000. And it was crazy to see how the AI wouldn't like one stop sexualizing me. Like, it would turn me into a woman with like very unrealistic like body proportions all the time. It would distort me. And I remember like I generated like a bunch of images and I was like, okay, this looks like so much like me. I'm so happy with this. I sent it to a friend of mine and my friend was like, no, that doesn't look anything like you. And it kind of like, like I realized that I had forgotten how uh, like I looked because I was looking at so many versions of myself for days, and it was hella disorienting. It was very consuming, if you may, because this art was called Consume and gave me a lot of anxiety. But this is what happened to the artwork. It is, again, a series of 1,800 images, self-portrait, all of them AI-generated versions of me. And I was like, I love that I can do this, but I want to like, you know, I was also working on Enhance at the same time, and I thought this would be great to do as a artwork that works together. And so Enhance and Consume were made, which is basically like a self-portrait where I'm consuming content and I'm kind of trying to create content and how that is influencing me and I'm influencing that. And if you see like they both like feed off each other, things that happen in Enhance kind of affect Consume and the other way around. And yeah, I really love these artworks. They're very special to me. And yeah, my phase, the Consume, ended up at the ArtScience Museum in Singapore, which was crazy because I never thought people would come look at my face in an exhibition. But yeah, so if you can see, like, it really distorts the idea of me, and it turns me into like this machine midway through, where I'm just a piece of like metal, I'm a robot, and then it's just like abstract scraps of metal, as you can see. And then it sort of like comes back over the next 900 images. And the idea was that like working with AI has felt like this. It's felt like a constant back and forth of defining my relationship with it, because it's never that straightforward. Like, I think when you're working with more hands-on tools, uh, you are present every way through. You are making things like, you're there in all its details. But with AI, it's like you can be as far away as you want. You can literally like make AI make images for you, and you can walk away for like days and come back and it'll have like a whole thing ready, right? So I think like defining that like relationship with my work that I was doing with AI was really important, because it felt like alien technology. I didn't understand it. We didn't know how it works. We just know it's like something out there. We didn't know the ethical implications of it, nothing. So I was like, okay, that deep dive is important. And it got like, uh, it always treaded this line between anxiety and excitement, because it excited me that I could do so much with it, that I could like have anything at my fingertips, but also give me so much anxiety because I was like, I'm losing myself in this whole process. I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know if this artwork's even mine, right? And so I was like, I'm gonna have to like switch things around, like insert myself in every step of the process, and then maybe it'll feel more like my work in some way. And so 36 days of type came around again, and I was like, okay, this is always a good exercise for me to learn new tools, for me to experiment more, to like solidify my skills and everything. And I thought this was a good opportunity to explore these questions that I had, right? And I was like, okay, how are we going to do this? I know so much of like everything that I've learned over the years. And of course, nothing like I'm not a master of any of it, but I know like little things. Like I know Cinema 4D now, I know After Effects now. I obviously know like Photoshop, Illustrator, and stuff. So I was like, how about I like do little things in every way and then use AI at like, different points in the process and see what happens. I want to make something that feels consistent, because none of the work till now I haven't seen work till now which has been like extremely consistent, which really reflects the artist in a way that it was like, okay, maybe it doesn't matter that it's AI, or maybe it's like, oh, this is like done in such a mindful way. And that was kind of the purpose of it. And so I started like sketching these letters, made them in 3D. I took 3D files from like my last year as well, where they were animated, made like a lot of different forms, and I animated these letters, right? A lot of these are recycled from 2021 as well, because of time. And I was like, okay, how about I use this as a base for my project? And so, again, I was working with Stable Diffusion at this point. If no one's, if anyone's not seen how it looks, it kind of looked like this. One of the interfaces, I had my own model that was trained on a bunch of reference images of how I wanted it to look. I'm not going to get into the aesthetics of it, but just like, and then I would use ControlNet, which basically would take my input, my image, it would do this, which was like it would process it into like into simpler information that the AI could then use as a base, and then iterate on top of it. And again, I started doing iterations of these things. I knew the kind of aesthetic that I want, and we kept going. We did a lot, a lot, a lot of them, till I was happy with like, I was like, okay, you can see like towards the end, it kind of gets consistent. I was like, okay, this is where I want to be. This is the zone. Kept trying different settings. As you can see, like there's so many sliders here. We would change each one of them. They all do like something different. And, kind of try to get something that I'm happy with. And then I exported frames from my animation. And then we do this for each and every one. Extremely exhausting, but I was like, now this feels like my work, because it references, it takes my things that I have painstakingly done, and I can no way think that effort like equates value or whatever, but I was like, okay, this really feels like my thing. And then of course, once you iterate, this is how it kind of looked. You use a bunch of tricks to make it look more consistent, this and that. And then I was like, even the starting point, there are so many different approaches to it, and so you iterate like 100 times for each thing, because you're never going to be happy with like the first thing you get or the second thing. And you need to like, because you can really like go like do 100 iterations, 100 different options. It's like working with a really skilled but dumb intern, right? Because they're like, they have no idea what they're doing, but sometimes they end up making cool things. And so I would like make so many of these, and I was like, okay, this makes sense, and put it together. And this is sort of how the artwork looked, which is like it took the 3D animation and it generated images on top of each other. And I can't even tell you how many iterations each one of them took. But yeah, we did. And I was like, okay, I'm happy with this. This really feels good to me. And I did this every day. I made it my full-time job this time. I did not take on any other work, because I was so obsessed with making this happen, to making this look good, to making this look consistent, and having this like AI project, which maybe answered a lot of these questions that I was having, maybe like helped me ease my anxiety and dive more deeply into the excitement. And we kept doing. And the conclusion of like all of this was that I came out with way more questions than I went in with. Like I started questioning a lot more things about how uh, like none of these things matter if we like keep making what we're making. We need to like challenge the AI's biases, because it's like I started noticing a lot of patterns when you work with something a lot, especially like an unknown entity like this. You start noticing that, oh, why is it trying to like, you know, do a certain kind of things over and over again? Like, why do I get Caucasian people all the time, or why do I get like these hypersexualized imagery all the time? And again, right, like when things are fed off big data, and even if like I use my own models and I train my own checkpoints, there's still like a lot of biases that like I couldn't like shake off. And so I was like, okay, at the end of it, like you really need to challenge and ask these questions at every step of the way. The technology is so new that we don't have answers to a lot of these things, but it's important to have that conversation. It's important to um, keep pushing it in a way that it works for you, and you don't end up working for it. Like you don't end up like making things that it's good at making, and not push it to do things that you want to be doing. But anyway, so this was fun, extremely exhausting, very rewarding. And now again, like if you see, like none of my projects have followed like the same process, and it continues to happen now. I'm making like these morphing visuals. There's a sunflower visual that you can see on my Instagram, and I'm using this comfy UI thing now to make it happen, where again it's very similar to like the stable diffusion process, except that I get a lot more control over it. I know this looks like intimidating as fuck, but like once you know what is what, it's not that like complicated. But yeah, it's like, oh, I load something in, this is my AI model, and then you put the prompt of what you want, you put the prompt of what you don't want. These are the different settings of generating the images. This is the animate diff thing, which allows me to like do these morphing things now. And the best thing about like stable diffusion over Midjourney or anything else is that it's open source, so people keep building on it. And people do crazy things. Like there are developers out there, there are artists out there that really are taking this technology and pushing it as much as they can, and then we get to do cool stuff because of them. Because God forbid you make me code. And this is another one of the workflows that I've been using, that uses images as an input and not just words. And again, I know it looks complicated, but it's not. Anyone can do it if you put in some time. And yeah, I wanted to share this because this is what I'm currently like working with. And you can see how much it has evolved from where I was, and how different each process, how different each one of these like technical things looks from the last project. Because if I was doing the same thing over and over again, I would get hella bored. I would get like, I don't enjoy it as much as I enjoy like taking something new, playing around with it. And yeah, tech excites me, art excites me, and so I do what I do. I will end with a lot of my face again iterations that I did not end up using, because yeah, thank you for listening to me blabber about all these different things. And yeah, I hope this phase and these very weird things haunt you as they have for many, many nights haunted me. Yep, that's all for me, and I will answer questions if anybody has them.
Thanks, Rina. That was a really amazing session. And it was really great to see your process and then the results of it also. Like it was really great. Thank you for doing this. And we have some questions in chat which I can read out to you. Uh,
Yes. Also,
so
like,
Vishal
just get out
says,
of.
yeah, sure.
Hmm.
So Vishal has a question. He says, I'm curious how much control you have over the generation process, how much into the weeds you can go when working with AI. Like the hands you just showed, are we able to dial down into small changes that often come from clients?
Okay. So it depends on, again, what kind of process are we using? Like the hands that were made on Midjourney, for example, because the client did not have any specific that, hey, this is like the specific technology that we want to show. This is the color of the hand, nothing. So Midjourney was great for doing more of these conceptual images. And then once I knew what I was happy with, then it does a lot of these iterations for you where the hand is a little bit different, the robotic hand is a little bit different. And you can keep doing these till you're happy with something. Working with AI is just a lot of iterations, which is why like even the talk is like titled Between the Control and Chaos of It. because as much as you can like try to have control, it is extremely chaotic. It is extremely here and there. uh, you have to make peace with it a lot of times that you're not going to get the exact same thing, which is why like if something takes like if a client wants something with meticulous details of like every single thing being there, they're going to have like 100 different changes. I will not use AI for that project at all because it doesn't make sense. It makes sense for like more of these conceptual things where, you know, yeah, what I was talking about, that each one of my projects, I feel like the input that AI has in it, like it has its place. Like I'm doing it because I'm like trying to prove a point. I'm doing it because I feel like it adds like a narrative layer to it, or because I can generate 1,800 images to make a video, right? Which would be crazy to uh, sit and draw in some way. So yeah.
I hope that answers your question, Vishal. If
Yeah.
anybody else has,
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
go ahead. Um, yeah, if anybody has questions, you can type it out in the chat or unmute yourself and ask Nina.
Share,
There's
share the
another
chat.
question.
Hmm?
Yeah, there's another question in the chat.
Okay. Oh, what is the ownership copyright status of your generated work, considering the most models are not only publicly available but also utilize public data sets for your current image generation purposes? Um, Extremely gray area, extremely new. People are still figuring it out. There's a lot of like murky stuff happening in like the copyright side of things, which is why I also don't like use it or recommend it for a lot of my client work. It's only when things that are made with a certain purpose in mind, like my art stuff, for example. Like I am training my own model, so I have like a lot of control and ownership over those things. And I'm also trying to prove a point about like these things. I'm trying to like add to the conversation or to the narrative of all of this. But again, like the details of it, like if you had to like go to court with it, I have no idea. Like it could go either way. People are still trying to figure it out. People are still trying to, like, yeah, you'll see people fight in every comment section of every popular AI video, calling it trash, calling it amazing. Yeah, I think those conversations will keep on happening for a good while now. What is important is that, like, also like the open source stuff, I prefer more over like something like a mid journey, because we have no idea what's happening like on the back end of like Midjourney, for example. Like Stable Diffusion, I know the data set that it's also like the bigger models are trained on. Uh, and so you have some transparency there where you're at least aware of where it comes from, as opposed to like, a company sort of blanketing everything that's happening and we have no idea. Yeah.
Cool. I had a question as well. So, in terms of the process, like, do you usually you'll get a brief? Say it's a client, you get a brief, right? So now, do you have to go in and start iterating directly in your softwares to try to figure out things, or like via text prompts or image prompts, or do you normally follow a separate type of process which would work, uh, like to try to solve the brief?
Yeah, I think it's like the exciting part about working with AI has also been that I am constantly changing this process as I go. There's a new process every project, depending on what the project needs. Sometimes, of course, like I just go straight up because like I'm like I just want to see if the AI can even like generate a certain aesthetic of images that kind of look nice to for me to even consider using it for a project, for example, as opposed to you know uh, like what does it exactly need, right? And so this has been like a fun experience to define the process each time. A lot of times it starts with sketches, as you saw, like the 36 days of type one. Yeah, it started on paper, went to a 3D software, came back on paper, and there was a lot of back and forth that happened there. So yeah.
And from like the iteration point of view, are you still able to maintain like consistency, or do you typically like go into a different direction when you're using your tools for AI general stuff?
Um, Extremely difficult again. Like I do not use it when things need to be like consistent to the T. Like there have been projects where people are like, we need this exact specific thing. For example, like we're working with like these animal species and we want exactly that. And I just won't use AI because like trying to make it happen, like the 36 days of type wasn't in like a uh, was a challenge to myself to make it happen, was like an experiment for myself, but I know how much it took for me to make it look like that. And a lot of times it just isn't worth it. Like these projects aren't worth it because they come with the intent of making, quick fast things. And so yeah, unless something gives you that time, like even the social video, I think like it's not the most consistent one, but I do think like the color palette with the social elements like integrated in, it kind of works. And after a certain point, it doesn't matter that it's a little scuffed. It doesn't matter that if you pause on each frame, they are all messed up. Like I can promise you that like if you pause randomly on that video, you cannot like make a painting out of it. It's not every frame a painting, but it comes together to make something fun. And that's kind of what mattered there.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I've been using like Runway to also try out some things, but what tends to happen is the if I give a image as a reference for the prompt, the video breaks after a couple of frames. I think the newest version of Runway right now has brought in a thing where you have a start and end frame, so you can like
Yeah.
kind of go from A to B. And I think that I've not tested it yet, but I think that makes it a little better. But yeah, it's nice to know that you're also facing this.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the for me, I find the beauty in like a lot of these broken things as well. I like that it's a bit like broken. I like that it's a bit like weird, and it does weird things that are out of my imagination. Like it turned that robot into a human for no reason in like 4 seconds of video. And I like to see these things. It kind of excites me because I'm like, okay, and it's getting better very fast, which is scary at the same time. But as I said, like you couldn't do hands 1 year back, you couldn't do a proper image. Like you saw those avocado chairs like 4 years back, and it's constantly getting better. Even Runway now, it doesn't scuff the video up as much, but you saw like the social scroll, like I generated,
Yeah.
I don't know how many videos till I was like, okay, these are scuffed, but I'm fine with it, right? There are like things that are like so broken where like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. And then they're like, okay, this is broken, but kind of in a nice way. Like it's kind of quirky. And I like that little space also a lot of times. So yeah, I think that's the fun part of collaborating with AI.
Cool. Thank you so much. If anyone else has any more questions, like please feel free to start your mic and just ask or type it out in the chat.
I had a follow-up question about what Vishal had asked. So, considering how much AI has progressed since its introduction into the industry to where it is right now, uh, do you think at any point in future AI will be able to get into like it will be able to go into the details of it and maybe change just a part of the video or image? Like,
Um,
uh,
for sure. Yeah.
do you think that in future that is possible where you'll have that much control over it?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's like you already have like tools that are way better than a few months back, right? And people
Mhm.
are consistently working on these things because they know that like that's how like you cannot do anything in the creative field if you don't have that much control, right? Like you can make these crazy things, I can call it art, I can put it out, but like you really cannot make like a working thing unless you have that control, unless you're able to change these minute things. And people are working on these tools, it is happening. Though I will say that like no matter how good it gets, uh, we'll still need like humans to like make them work in a way that works for the world, because that understanding, those insights that humans bring of you know like little things that I said that like all I've been trying to do is like make it feel more like mine, like insert little things in places which kind of round these weird AI things, and you don't just like see something randomly and you're like, okay, it's just some random AI generated imagery and scroll. I think there should be something, at least for me, if not for anyone else. And I think we'll keep doing that. We'll continue pushing these things. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think we have another question also in the chat.
Mm, are there any potential concerns over the consequences AI could have when it comes to visualizing, translating existing aesthetic ecosystems, which carry entire cultures of method, symbolism, material usage, and preservation, wherein these factors cannot be relegated to the temporal nature of digital media? I am sorry, I need to read that again. That's a lot of words. Uh, Academic existing ecosystems which carry entire cultures of. Mm, I am a little confused about this question. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I understand it completely. If any of you do, please tell me.
I think what he's Niranjan. I mean, if I may jump in,
Yeah.
I think what he's trying to say is like, so in the early days of AI, I think
Mm,
maybe a year ago. So it's
mm,
not. Yeah, it's still early, but there were instances where if you put in image generation to show a criminal, they would show a black person,
yeah.
and if
Yeah.
you put in words to prompt to show a happy family, it would be this very 90s and 2000s aesthetic white family celebrating
Yeah.
Christmas. So
Yeah.
there is this huge I think whatever AI is learning, it's learning from the internet, and whatever is on the internet is by biased people from everywhere. So, like, I think what he's trying to say is like, are there any potential concerns of that continuing on to the future that can cause any harm
Hmm.
to the general, public?
Yes, I think I mean, those are some of my biggest anxieties as well when working with these things. And it's sort of where my art practice is about, like exploring these questions, asking these questions, being a part of this very narrative that, as I was saying that, right, like a lot of these models and also like AI is in a very scary place because it all works on data, as you said. And the only people that have the sort of power, the computational power to make like these extremely large models, and now we're talking about like general intelligence AI or whatever, is in the West, and they carry a lot of biases, especially in other cultures where they just don't match up, right? And it is our job as creators, as people who are using this tech, to constantly ask these questions, to push these sort of boundaries. Like when I make what I make, for me, it's like, how can I push? Uh, how can I push like this tool to a limit where it's no longer giving me that, like the first iteration of, that is obviously the answer through its biases and through whatever it knows. And how can I push it enough uh, till I'm getting what I want, till I am able to take it beyond, like, it's very like basic instincts as well. And of course, I hope over time this changes. I hope uh, but like these are things that keep me up at night. I don't have any answers to this. I just know that like it's in a scary place, especially because of how much computational power like uh, places like the States have. And if you see like the biggest like AI companies, they're all based there. And we don't know for sure if those like if their drawbacks, if like if things that they are bad at don't get translated, their biases don't get translated, their racist histories don't get translated, because they do. and it's our job to be very vigilant and not let it like amplify, because that's kind of what it does because of data, right? It amplifies the whole thing. Yeah. Oh, Ranjit said something more. When the method history has been given this much respect, is there a greater consequences when the mass adaptation and this resulting set of systems may or may not lead to these older methods from being absoluted? Oh, yeah. So what I think about this is that like I think AI is changing the way that we consume a lot of these things as well. Um, and with any new like tools, with any new like, and I think like AI is like, I don't know, like I keep saying tool, but also at the same time, I'm like, it's so much like more complex, it's so much bigger, it's so much like more um, intense than just like a new version of Photoshop, right? The way that, yeah, it kind of thinks for itself as well. And I have no idea like what's going to happen. I do know that it's changing how we look at art, for example, how we look at craft. I don't think it like makes anything obsolete for sure, because I do think they have their own place. I've never heard like I'm sure like corporates are trying to do that. I'm sure people are trying to push it, but you know, yeah, there are like certain things that make these crafts special, that certain detail that I was talking about. Like I have never claimed like I am collaborating with AI, but I'm doing it in a very annoying way where I'm like constantly bothered by it. It's never been like, oh, AI has changed my life for the better and now I'm so much happier because I can use AI to do these things. I could never draw, and that's why I try to, you know, make these things that maybe I couldn't do before and use it in that way. But a person who knows like how to do these things, of course, like these tools can amplify, take it in a new direction, but they have their own place. Like even now, if someone comes to me and they want like a set of illustrations, I will go to an illustrator because I know what they add to it. I know those systems are already in place, as you said, right? Like they bring those little cultural nuances, those insights into it that like I am very limited by, and the AI with its biases, I can't keep like fighting it to like make things happen. I'm like, okay, can you make me an Indian man that doesn't look like a poor guy or like someone straight out of like he's just like doesn't look like a doctor in the States or whatever. So yeah, I guess like there, like I don't think like I've really answered your question very like in a straightforward manner, but these are just like my thoughts around these things, if that makes sense. But if there's something more specific, you can ask again, I guess. And yeah, I'm sorry, like I'm just like trying to comprehend it too.
I hope that answers your question, Niranjan. If you have a follow-up question to it, you can type it out or you can unmute and ask.
Yeah.
Cool. I think if there are no more questions, we can wrap up now. But yeah, if any of you want to get in touch with another, I guess you can definitely. Wait, we have a little bit more. Okay. You can read that, Ninaad. Is your chat open?
I mean, fair enough, but I think at least some more time is required to actually bring in a fair judgment. But yeah, for sure. Like I think this is going to keep evolving. It's so early on. Nobody really knows anything. Like I have zero answers to any of the questions that I started with. I only have more questions now. I think I'm only going to have more questions every day that I work with AI. And it's important to have them. It's important to be very critical. Like when people ask me if um, like I am very cautiously optimistic about it, because I like to just be like optimistic about technology, because otherwise everything feels extremely dystopian, extremely like bleak. But I'm extremely cautious with it because I know like if you're a bigoted person, it can make it so much worse, right? If you're like a racist person, it can like validate all your biases, it can make you a worse person than you were. And if you're trying to do nice things, it can probably help you do that too. And I like to just put my faith in people and myself as well to continue challenging this, and yeah, taking it in a place where we'd want it to be. All right, I think that's all. That's a fine note, I think.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you for taking out the time to have this session with us finally, Nilan. It was really, 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 really nice to see your entire process. and how you think and how you're navigating this entire space and the ethics of it and all of that. So yeah, thank you so much for taking out the time. And also thank you everyone for joining us on a Saturday evening just before the holidays. I'm sure you all have holiday shopping and a bunch of things to do, and families probably come down to where you all live. But thank you again for joining in, taking out the time, and engaging with the talk. This will be available on our YouTube channel in a couple of, let's say, weeks, because the holidays are coming. Um, and you can go through it again. Feel free to check out Ninaad's socials on his, check out his Instagram, check out his, I think you have a website as well, right?
Don't go to my website. No,
Okay,
it's
don't
not
go
a
to
paid.
his website, just
Wait,
go
Instagram.
Instagram. Go to his Instagram. Come check out Motion Sickness's Instagram. Join the community if you'd like to. Yeah, and thank you so much again for joining, for engaging, for talking, not just for today, but for this entire year. So Aishwarya and me have been running around for an entire year, constantly on WhatsApp, bouncing messages, trying to figure out how to get the speaker for the next month, to plan something, to figure out what the talk's about. Uh, it gets really hectic, and it's been super fun. This year has been, like, I think, really nice and a big learning curve for both of us. Um, from all trajectories. And yeah, this year's been, we managed to do, we set out with the goal of doing 12 talks this year, which turned out to be a total of 10, including this one and one meetup. So we did 11 events, one per month almost, which I think we're still very proud of and we're happy with. So thank you all for even attending the previous ones. And yeah, so now I think we will see you in the next year. Like, Motion Sickness is planning a couple more things to do. And if everything works out, we hope that we're going to be seeing you all very soon. We are going to be slowing down a little bit on our talks, so we're going to be taking taking it a little bit easier. But hopefully, we'll have more meetups and a couple more things which are in the pipeline, which will all work out. And yeah, thank you all. Awesome.
thanks, Nina. Thanks for doing this. And thanks, everyone, for joining in. Happy holidays and Happy New Year in advance.
Yeah, thank you all, and Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. See you all. Thank you, Ninaad. Bye bye.